Lorraine Hansberry, playwright, activist, and visionary, exploring her life, activism, and legacy. Lorraine Hansberry was born on May 19, 1930, in Chicago into an upper-middle-class black family. She was the youngest of 4 children. Her father, Carl Hansberry, grew up in Mississippi, while her mother, Nanny Perry Hansberry, was raised in Tennessee. During the Great Migration, the Hansberrys moved to Chicago, where Carl built a successful real estate business. Nanny managed their buildings, tenants, and household. Lorraine's uncle, William Hansberry, was a professor at Howard University and is regarded as the father of African American studies. Despite their financial success, the Hansberrys lived in Chicago's South Side ghetto due to housing practices that kept African Americans segregated. In 1938, Carl Hansberry moved his family to a white neighborhood, challenging restrictive covenants that barred black residents. Their arrival was met with violence. Mobs threw bricks and concrete slabs through their windows. Lorraine later recalled her desperate and courageous mother patrolling the house all night with a loaded German Luger, doggedly guarding her 4 children, while her father fought the respectable battle in the U.S. Supreme Court and won. From 1948 to 1950, Lorraine attended the University of Wisconsin, studying art, drama, literature, and stage design. In the early 1950s, she moved to New York City, where she pursued writing and activism. She worked as a journalist for Freedom, a progressive African-American newspaper, and she began writing plays. In 1953, Lorraine married Jewish community activist Robert Nemiroff. The marriage ended in divorce a few years later, but they remained close friends, and Nemiroff continued to promote her work after their separation. Lorraine was an outspoken activist for women's rights, black civil rights, and more quietly, LGBTQ rights. She also wrote under a pseudonym for The Ladder, a gay publication. In 1959, at age 29, her groundbreaking play, A Raisin in the Sun, premiered on Broadway, making her the first black female playwright to achieve this honor. On January 12, 1965, Lorraine Hansberry died of pancreatic cancer in New York City at the young age of 34. Lorraine Hansberry's experience as an 8-year-old, when her family moved into a white neighborhood and faced hatred and violence, became the foundation for one of the key themes in A Raisin in the Sun. The play tells the story of a working-class black family living in Chicago's South Side ghetto who inherits money and pursues their dream of moving to a better neighborhood, a white neighborhood. In addition to dreams, the play explores themes such as masculinity, misogyny, racial discrimination, black identity, and pride. Hansberry's inspiration for the title came from her mentor, Langston Hughes' poem, Harlem. Harlem. What happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun, or fester like a sore and then run? Does it stink like rotten meat, or crust and sugar over like a syrupy sweet? Maybe it just sags like a heavy load, or does it explode? A Raisin in the Sun broke barriers in theater. It was the first stage drama with an all-black cast. It featured the first black director on Broadway in 50 years, and of course was written by the young black female playwright, Lorraine Hansberry. The original cast included Sidney Poitier and Ruby Dee. In 1959, the play won the New York Drama Critics Circle Award for Best Play, making Hansberry the youngest playwright and first black writer to win the award. The play revolutionized American theater, attracting many African Americans to experience theater for the first time and introducing mainstream audiences to authentic black stories. In 1961, it was adapted into a film, earning a Cannes Film Festival award. A Raisin in the Sun inspired a new generation of Black writers and performing artists. The New York Times claimed in 1983 that A Raisin in the Sun changed American theater forever, with a radically new representation of Black life that was authentic, unsentimental, and undeniably ahead of its time. Lorraine Hansberry had a tremendous impact on the civil rights movement, despite her tragically short life. Growing up in a family deeply committed to fighting for racial justice, Lorraine was immersed in the struggle from an early age. She was a prolific writer, courageous in her artistic expression in her plays, essays, short stories, and letters. She challenged societal norms and expectations. In her later years, some considered her a radical. Lorraine was no stranger to protest and picket lines, and demonstrated her commitment by organizing fundraisers, including for Freedom Summer. She was outspoken, dedicated, and tireless in her efforts to create change. Lorraine was well connected within the community of Black intellectuals and activists, benefiting from the mentorship and camaraderie of prominent figures. Her family regularly hosted luminaries, such as Professor W.E.B. Du Bois, poet Langston Hughes, singer, actor, and political activist Paul Robeson, musician Duke Ellington, and Olympic gold medalist Jesse Owens. After moving to New York, she worked for the Pan-African newspaper Freedom. Robeson was the editor, Du Bois worked nearby, and Louis Burnham was on staff. She developed close friendships with writer and activist James Baldwin, singer-songwriter Nina Simone, and fellow playwright, novelist, and actress Alice Childress. Lorraine was a skilled organizer, actively involved in numerous influential organizations. She served as co-chair of the NAACP's Life Membership Committee. She was also a member of the Sojourners for Truth and Justice, a radical civil rights group led by Black women, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, the American Committee on Africa, the Young Progressives of America, the Labor Youth League, and the Daughters of Bilitis, the first lesbian civil and political rights organization. Hansberry embraced Black pride and worked tirelessly to uplift marginalized voices. Lorraine was passionate about inspiring and mentoring Black youth. In 1964, while addressing a group of teenage essay winners, she encouraged them with the powerful words, "I speak with you on this occasion because you are young, gifted, and Black. I, for one, can think of no more dynamic combination a person might be. Look at the work that awaits you." Today, Black voters in Gen Z and millennials continue her legacy, viewing civic participation as a connection to a long history of trailblazers fighting for the freedoms promised by democracy. The energy and passion of today's young Black voters echo the movements of the past, where Black youth were pivotal in demanding justice and equality. Lorraine Hansberry was a progressive visionary. The causes she championed are still at the forefront of struggles for justice today. On women's oppression, she once said, "Obviously, the most oppressed group of any oppressed group would be its women, who are twice oppressed." The Black Lives Matter movement continues her fight for liberation and freedom for African Americans. The LGBTQ rights movement builds on her advocacy for gay and transgender rights, causes she boldly supported over 6 decades ago. As a closeted lesbian, Hansberry took great personal risk in an era when homosexuality was illegal. Her intersectional activism paved the way for generations of Black queer female artists and writers who continue to benefit from her courage. What drew me to Lorraine Hansberry was her incredible ability to use theater and art as platforms to address uncomfortable truths about race, gender, and sexuality. As someone with a lifelong interest in theater, I admire how she brought authenticity and pressing social issues to the stage, redefining what theater could achieve. Her work reminds me of the transformative power of art, not just as entertainment, but as a force for challenging norms and driving social change. Her story inspires me to speak truth to power and remain fearless in tackling difficult issues. Lorraine Hansberry's contributions to women's rights, racial equality, and LGBTQ rights make her a trailblazer whose influence endures. Her groundbreaking work in theater and her courage as an activist remain deeply relevant today. She passed away at just 34 years old, leaving the world to wonder what more she might have accomplished had she lived longer. How might she have shaped the progress made since her passing? And what would she think of the struggles that remain? Hansberry's legacy challenges us to continue using our voice and platforms, as she did, to fight for a more just and equitable world.